hi everyone, and thank you, Solomon Yu, for coming here and taking the time to spend time with us young Republicans. So this live interview is with the Oregon Republican Party's National Committeeman, Solomon Yu, and we will be doing a Q&A like Stephen said at the end. So just send your questions in the chat to Ari, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. Yeah. Okay, so the first question is, how did you get involved with the Oregon Republican Party?
First of all, I got involved to defeat Hillary Care, which is I call March Towards Socialism. And my wife and I moved from Anchorage, Alaska to Salem, Oregon. She is a physician. But Hillary was pushing Hillary Care. And because that background, I was organizing Oregon physicians opposing Hillary Care. And then Polk County Chairman Ron Fenster recruited me and to join him and to serve as vice chairman of Polk County GOP. That's how I started in Oregon.
And when did you become the National Committeeman?
20 years ago, 2000 basically.
So what is your responsibilities on a daily basis?
Actually, at this point, I have three responsibilities. As a Republican National Committeeman for Oregon, I am defending this constitutional republic nationally by taking back America. And internationally, I am serving as vice chairman and CEO of Republicans Overseas. Now that position is a bit unique because there are 9 million overseas Americans. Lots of Democrats, but when you talk about constitutional rights, they pay double taxes, means they pay host country tax as well as US Anglo-Sam tax. So I have been working on this and representing them since 2014. And of course, turn Oregon into a red state is also my responsibility since I am Republican National Committeeman for Oregon. So basically those are three responsibilities.
Yeah, and so going off of you being the CEO of Republican Overseas, you likely have exposure to international politics. And so
Yes.
For people who don't know, could you please explain the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, and
certainly,
how do you think America should respond to this?
CCP, China's the initiative really is dealing with put third world country in debt, and it's a debt trap, and force them to borrow Chinese money and use Chinese laborers and the products to build infrastructures. When you can't pay them back and they seize your national assets, including airports and deep water seaports. And so basically they're using this, expand their military base throughout Asia and Africa. And that is the way to compete with US. And now, but this thing is not doing well because when people realized, I'm talking about third world countries, realized they're losing national assets and their national securities is a threat. Chinese threaten their national securities, and also there are people actually out of jobs. And because Chinese do not use local labor forces, and they bring their own surplus labor in China and to work on those projects. Meanwhile, China takes their natural resources. And so what you have is new kind of imperialism. And so that become a threat to the world. And for that purpose, you will see lots of countries fight bankruptcy over this soon.
Yeah, and so going to national responsibilities as committeeman, you play a critical role in securing resources for Oregon. What is our plan for the upcoming midterm elections and the gubernatorial race of 2022?
Yes. For last several gubernatorial race, I've been bringing Republican governors, Brownback, Ricketts, and then others from the conservative states, and to help Oregon candidate for governors, and also show support. That's one way to do it. Second thing I do is bring speakers and do fundraising for Oregon Republican parties. And when you raise money for the party, then party can spend the money to help all candidates, from school board candidates all the way to the candidate for governor. And the last event before COVID I did was bring Owens and to Oregon, and she is a great speaker. And Candy Owens, as a matter of fact, I think we even offer free tables, free seats for young Republicans to participate, if I remember right. And so this is my kind of stuff I do to help Oregon Republican Party. And last year actually was the first time in our party history when we pay for a mailer and for the caucus and to help targeted seats for the House and Senate side, and we actually captured those seats. And secondly, I went to Republicans overseas supporter, raised 20,000 for two statewide candidate for treasurer and for Jeff was running. Jeff running on treasurer was running for treasurer, right? And Jeff Goodman treasurer, and Kim Thatcher for Secretary of State. So ORP finally gave 10,000 apiece to help those candidates. And so I usually stay out in GOP primary because the Oregon Republican Party bylaws require us to treat all the candidates equally. So my support will kick in when we Oregon Republicans elected a Republican nominee for governor, then I will start engaged. Now this time I can do even more because I'm working very closely with Trump team. Now, as you know, President Trump formed the office of the former president of the United States. He is using that office to communicate with his 74 million or 75 million voters and supporters. And then he also created 3 super PACs, and that will be very, very helpful. Save America Super PAC, he's going to use that to endorse congressional, senatorial candidates and to fund them. And the other Super PAC, the Center for America Restoration, is a C3. And C3 concept is a think tank kind of Super PAC. He brings lawyers in and think tank guys, in policy guys, to figure out how to reform election law state by state in battleground states. So we will be able to prevent this kind of cheating we experience in November. And the other pack is American Restoration Action. Action pack is doing something Soros did to us, recruiting candidates to run for Secretary of State offices and fund them, at the same time defeat HR1. HR1 is nationalization of the hanky-panky illegal activity we experienced last November. That bill got to be defeated. Otherwise, we will never be able to win another presidential election, period. So that's what I do for this cycle.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, well, you mentioned Trump and his supporters. And so what do you think the future of the Republican Party looks like for us now?
I think we already got a verdict on that. And when you have 67 or 8% of Republicans willing to join Trump for a third party led by Trump, then you have 15% Democrats, 28% independents. And he will be able to form the second largest party, third party in America, and after a Democrat Party. But he decided not going to leave Republican Party. He also decided to reach out, bring in those 28% independents and 15% Democrats. And so this is going to be a great thing for Republican Party. And actually, we come out of this even stronger. So I would say this is Trump's America First Party, especially you read somewhere 120 former GOP leaders and Trump officials decided to form a third party. And guess what? They didn't realize this. It's how hard you form a third party. And so wind up, they met, they got together and voted they're not going to form a third party. So based on that, I already claimed GOP is America First Party, period. So we don't have to fight this one, anymore.
Yeah, and so it seems that you have unwavering support for Trump and the America First agenda. But there's been some criticisms claiming that you're a Romney-like rhino. How do you respond to those claims?
Thank you for the question. Actually, it goes like this. When I make a decision what to do, is based on what is good for this republic and this constitutional republic. How are we going to keep it? So when you have 10 House members join Democrats to impeach Trump, and when you see this happening, you realize this is a threat. This is a threat to all freedom-loving people in this country and to this constitutional republic. You can't have Republicans aiding and abetting our enemy, Democrats. And Democrats impeached Trump second time for.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I just muted you on accident. Go ahead and unmute yourself there, National Committeeman. Sorry about that. There you go. Sorry about that.
Should I start
Please.
answer the, okay. And what I see with a threat against this Constitution, against this republic, if you see Democrats fight, they fight in locksteps, and they don't have dissensions. And Republicans, actually, we start shooting each other. In this time, you have 10 House members came out and aiding and abetting our enemy. Now, my point was, if you do your homework, they all swear, right, to uphold the Constitution. Based on that, Constitution talk about due process and representation, lawyer representation, and presumption of innocence. So president should enjoy this kind of constitutional protections as well, because we offer this kind of constitutional protections to criminals. When those House members join the other side, takes president constitutional rights away, I got a problem. And I will speak up. Otherwise, we will lose this republic. And especially in today's world, if you speak up, they disagree with you. What do? They cancel you, right? I lived through Mao's Cultural Revolution. And that's what CCP doing to any dissidents speaking up. And this shouldn't happen in America. No, this is at a national level. That's how I handle it. At a state level, I didn't call for impeach or remove rhinos. Good example is our candidate for governor, New Bueller. Remember, he got nominated, then he turned around, criticized, beat up, attacked Trump. And many conservatives said, we're not coming out and to vote for him. I said, wrong, and take a look our alternative, okay? The bottom line is you have to ask the question, are we going to be better off if we stay home, not voting for New Bueller and re-elect Kay Brown? Obviously, the answer is no. And for that, I never criticize him. I encourage everybody to vote for him. I support him. I vote for him. Then, after I pass ORP resolution, right, condemn the 10, and he took his marbles and changed party. So I don't think you can have both ways. On one hand, when you were candidate for governor, you want my support. And even though you were criticizing Trump or attacking Trump, and I still support you and never call you name, never call you rhino, and persuade others to come out to vote for you. And when I speak up nationally, and nothing to do with local, okay, politics, because Oregon politics is different from national politics. And guess what? You don't like my free speech, and you took your marbles and go home. So that's the difference here.
Yeah. And so for Oregon politics, how can we get the national party's attention to focus on Oregon and help elect conservative leaders?
Couple of things, I believe. One, we need to show our unity. I mean it, okay? And that was the reason when New Bueller attacked Trump, I never call him out. I urge others to support him. I still try to bring national resources support to Oregon. Because if we want national support, that goes for RGA, that's a Republican Governors Association, RNC, and Trump team, you need to show the unity. If you start infight, by the way, take a look at my records. You can't find a single email, okay, a single tweet. I attacked any Republicans in Oregon, period. Okay, and nationally, it's a different ballgame. Okay, so you got to be able to separate your battle environment. Oregon is a liberal state. You can't afford to play divide conquer game, period. That's why I get attacked, okay, by my opponent, political opponent within the party. I turn the other cheek. But nationally, you can't do that. If you do that, you're going to lose this constitutional republic. So my advice to Oregon is that unite, unite, and unite, and to fight together and use your persuasion, not threats. That's why you never see me do anything like that, publicly or behind the scene.
Yeah, and your message of unity may be connected to President Biden, which might not help your message, but I understand what you're saying, that internal conflicts are not.
I'm not talking about unite with Democrats.
Yeah.
Democrats is our political enemy. And that goes for Kay Brown. That's why I supported Bill Courier recall Kay Brown twice. And as a matter of fact, I saw many Central Committee members I'm talking about state Central Committee members, came out of recall Kay Brown movement. And that's very important. And this kind of stuff get people energized, get people just like I did with Hillary Care. You want to give people something to think about, something to do to make difference. Then you can really talk about unity.
Yeah. And so how are you projected to be the National Committeeman for like the continuing future? How does that work? Are you going to stay in the position for more years or what?
Well, I got reelected last year. My term is a 4-year term. So I will be up 2024. And then I will be able to make a decision and what I'm going to do next. And so I don't know yet where I'm going with all this. It depends on where I am needed. 1, to take back America, and 2, to defeat new evil empire, CCP. I call them fascist China. And so based on that, I will serve this party and will serve this republic.
Yeah, so those are all the questions that we have prepared. We're going to move on to audience questions because there are quite a few. So I'm going to turn it over to Ari Little, and we'll start the Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes. Hi.
Okay, awesome. Hi. Thank you so much for all that you've been going through with Lauren. This has been incredible. We have had a lot of audience questions come through. So I'll just start from the first one and work our way down. For the first one, over 2020 and even into 2021, there has been an influx in anti-Asian American attacks. It's been or attacks against Asian Americans here. What is your perspective on the media's narrative that it's an extension of white supremacy?
First of all, we got to combat woke. If we don't do it, and this is the same thing as cancel culture. And the game they played is divide conquer. And I see an increased number of Asian Americans voting for Trump for very, very good reason. One, good economy and their job security. And second, actually, Trump DOJ did something for Asian Americans when they applied for universities. And traditionally speaking, quota system, racial motivated quota system, require Asian Americans to score higher than anybody else. It really is a reversed discrimination. And Trump DOJ smart enough recognize that. Finally, use this issue and to support Asian Americans, those kids lawsuit against Ivy Leagues. And worked, it really worked. And because of that, Democrats lately use Georgia shooting and turn this sex, yes, he's a white man, a white kid, right? But he's a sex active and turn his shooting into against Asian Americans. But there is a flip side. The good side of this is Asians not play that game and they don't believe it. And Asians actually raise the issue regarding Asian Americans got beat up by Antifa and BLM thugs in San Francisco. Where were you guys? Right? Where were the Vice President Harris? She was senator representing California, right? How come you didn't speak up? So people recognize that. So I see an opportunity really for 2022 and 2024 to increase the Asian vote for Republican Party because of that. People realize this. And the China threat is even better story. Let me explain the China threat this way. I actually blame CCP and Xi Jinping, I call him Hitler, and purposefully shut down domestic travel, but allow infected Chinese to travel abroad, even though Trump shut down direct flights from mainland China. But Xi Jinping allowed infected Chinese to travel to Europe, then from Europe, travel to America. And now they infect us, they kill us. Okay, so in my book, that is biological warfare against the United States and the world. And because liberal policy, if you remember, Pelosi herself went to San Francisco to celebrate Chinese New Year. Democrat Governor New York did the same thing, right? So that's where you see what happened, the infection, the death, COVID death, or CCP virus death in both New York and California, much higher than the rest of the country, okay? So Chinese Americans were victims, and they realized that what happened. And so that is another opportunity for us to reach out to them and make sure they're voting for a Republican Party this time and not supporting Democrats for that very reason. And support Democrats means support China.
Yeah, it definitely seems as if there's just using this as another narrative to bring down Republicans or the Republican voting base. I could probably talk to you about this forever, so I'll move on to the next question.
We can talk.
Yeah, we could talk. Yeah. Okay, so number 2, within the last election, it seems like Oregon continues to get bluer, referring to Oregonians voting Democrat. This audience member wants to know how you plan to move Oregon to a more Republican state.
Okay, it really is a separate issue, okay? with national politics. I heard, let's register more Republicans. That alone is not going to happen. You need to register Republicans by giving them reason to register as Republicans. That means Republicans must stand for something. Issues we can really focus on, shut down. COVID or CCP virus shutdown is a good example of that. And destroy jobs, destroy economy, and let's say get school opened, all the schools, right? And that's another issue. So we have to find this kind of issues Oregonian cared about and use those issues to engage Oregonians and register them as Republican to support our candidates. Another issue is recruiting candidates. Now, don't consider this as a criticism, okay? But this is a reality. Last election cycle, we lost Denise Ball, a sitting state senator. I know her mom. I served with her mom. I know her very well. I served with her. I always consider her, consider Denise is a conservative. At first time she ran as a conservative, and because she's in Salem, so I'm getting all the advertising and all the flyer, and she didn't run as a strong conservative last cycle, and she lost by less than 4,000 votes. And as a matter of fact, they didn't realize the threat as either all liberal organizations statewide bring money to her district to target her because they think she is vulnerable. And the Oregon Republican Party first time gave her $2,000, okay, and but couldn't bring extra 400 votes. Those 400 votes could be our conservative votes. And the nature of conservatives, when they no longer think you are fighting for them, they're going to stay home. When they stay home, we all pay a price because not every conservatives would look at a big picture, ask the question I asked before, are we going to be better off if I do X, Y, Z? They don't do that, okay? They only focus on, you didn't do this, and you didn't say that, and you didn't fight for me, screw you, I'm gonna stay home. So that kind of reality we must face on one hand. On the other hand, we must engage our conservative voters. And that's why I told many of them, even though New Bueller attacked Trump, but are we going to be better off as Oregonians? Stay home, let Kay Brown get reelected? Of course not, right? So the bottom line is you have to do this kind of one-on-one engagement with our own base as a party leader.
Well, within that, you mentioned Newt Bueller, and we actually had a kind of a follow-up question to that, tying into what you were talking about. Do you think that Newt Bueller's abortion stance may have resulted in low Republican turnout? And then within that, what makes a strong conservative candidate?
Okay, let's break the two issues. Actually, I would like to address candidate, ideal candidate issue first. In an ideal world, as an ideal candidate, you would downplay the kind of things turn your base off. But unfortunately, sometimes you hire campaign consultants and national consultants, they really don't know local issues and local conservatives well enough. So when they advise you to play for the middle of move to the left, and you as a candidate, you don't realize will cost you hemorrhaging, on the right. Okay, so you need to figure out, and is hemorrhaging enough in this case will cost you election? My answer is yes, in Denise's case. And the other good example is, let me use Dennis Richardson, who happened to be my friend, and I bring those Republican governors in to help him as well, including Texas governor, and then become Trump's energy secretary. When you talk to governors like this, they will tell you this. You know your base is conservative. You know your state is liberal. You have to find a combination, not being perceived as abandoning your base and sold out, okay? And to reach out to Democrats. You may not even get them. So what Dennis did right is he never wavered on his principles, what he believed in. But at the same time, he reached out to independents and Democrats by a base using his integrity. And when he get elected, he will do X, Y, Z and deliver on his campaign promises. Hey, Trump did exactly that, right? So when you see this kind of two comparison between Dennis Richardson on the right hand and the new Bueller on the other hand, you realized what should be an ideal candidate. How are you going to find this kind of combination? I would go for somebody like Dennis Richardson.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was, I'm sure that was insightful for all of us to kind of go through and think about it, especially as we come up to 2022 as it rounds the corner. So that was awesome. The next question that I have is, do you have a concern about the overt Marxist/communist movement that's sweeping across our institutions, everything from academia to even Hollywood? And what can everyday Americans do to fight against this?
Very much so, and especially I see a leftist cultural revolution in America already started. And when you have Antifa, BLM, bring down statues and burn Bibles, and then you see cancel culture, also Katie Couric is a good example of that. And she actually tweeted, and she have 1.6 million Twitter followers, and to deprogram Trump voters. And New York Times also calling for a federal reality czar, okay? And when you see this kind of stuff, you realize, and they are coming at us, they're going to coming for us, and pretty soon, if you speak up, you're going to lose your jobs. You speak up, pretty soon, you're going to lose your mortgage, let's say. So this is a scary and slippery slope. And if you don't speak up and you don't fight now, pretty soon you have to fight on the streets. That's how I see it. Now, when that happened, I only got 186,000 Twitter followers. I tweeted to Katie Couric directly. I said, if 75 million Trump supporters refuse to be brainwashed, that's my term. Her term is deprogram. It's the same thing. And what are you going to do next? send us to concentration camps and for re-education. I've been there, I survived, and bring it on, right? And when I start to New York Times and Kitty Kirk like this several times directly, and those verbiage got dropped, both federal reality czar and the deprogram got dropped. So the point is, right now, we can still speak up. You better do it. Otherwise, pretty soon, we will be marched to concentration camp. Or we have to fight on the streets. Pick and choose one.
And it seems like it's coming sooner and sooner than we're probably ready for. But
correct.
Within that, you know, there's a lot of different things. There are people coming out and speaking out against what's happening. So hopefully that'll be more and more. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Again, another topic we could spend on forever. Switching here, you mentioned that the Republican Party needs to come together to show more unity for each other. What should be the first step of the young Republicans to do just that?
Actually, I recognize you, young Republican has been playing a constructive role, and I saw you guys came out for our events, and Candace Owens' event is a very good example of that. And also, some of you guys got elected as ORP State Central Committee members, and you are engaging that way. But more importantly, okay, and that brings you guys to a focus and my focus as well. And we reach a point. You have young people in America, and they rather join Antifa or BLM. And they think creating chaos, burning books, bring down statue, beating people up will save this republic. We are at the edge of 1776. For that, we all have to be mindful. The only way we're going to prevent that, we need more young people get involved and push back on campus and through social networking and social media, and become a digital army. The thing is, I consider Democrats, Antifa, and BML bullies. And I've been giving 2 examples when I talk to Trump team and talk to RNC members. One example was, remember Biden's inauguration day, and Antifa came out and attacked Democrat Party of Oregon headquarters in Portland. And they couldn't understand that. Why? I said, very easy. If you think all this cancel culture, wonk, all this leftist cultural revolution, Mao released Red Guards, but Mao also lost control of Red Guards. And same thing, Biden released Black Guards, but now Black Guards turn on Biden and Democrat Party. They always eat their own. So when I talk about party unity, we need to unite. We need to play divide conquer between Antifa, BLM against Democrat Party. And as a matter of fact, right now there is a real war. Take a look at Nevada. Nevada Democrats staff members resigned, all of them, because the leftists, the militant leftists took over Nevada State Party, right? So when you see this kind of stuff, you say, aha, this is our opportunity, and to take back America. So that's how I see it, and that's what I would, do. Now, for that, the second part is that they don't understand a couple things. I'm going to use those couple examples again when I told RNC members and Trump campaign. We're testing ground, Oregon, by the way. All the bad things start in Oregon. Vote by mail is a good example of that, right? Now, did you guys remember a hairdresser named Lindsey Graham, Salem, Oregon?
Yeah, we actually just did a video with her and released it like a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
When Antifa and BLM put on Facebook, they are going to come to Salem and burn her shop down, okay? Over 100 Salem citizens armed came out, patrolled the streets downtown in front of her business. And they came, they left. That's a very good example, okay? But two other opposite examples. One, they marched to Eugene, a liberal college town. And the professors and college kids, not on your side, on my side, on their side came out. Why do this to us? We are with you, okay? And the town still got trashed. And same thing, Pearl District, right? And those homeowners came out and they still demand turn your property over to Black families. They came out and those homeowners are in a well-to-do, posh neighborhood with Biden yard sign everywhere, okay? Why you do that to us? Guess what? They said, we want to take your system down. And because you are part of the establishment. So this kind of stuff are good example of how we can use this kind of stuff to divide and conquer the other side.
All right. And kind of tacking onto that, you have mentioned even just throughout this interview today, I guess I'll call it out here, your disdain or hatred for the CCP.
Absolutely.
One audience member does have a question for you of have you had any business dealings with the CCP or a CCP-owned company?
Zero. None.
Very clear. Understood. Okay. All right. And then the other question that we have is, what do you see as the biggest threat to our country? And what do you see as the major issues that we need to address as Republicans?
The major threat is that we're fighting two battles, two fronts, not two battles. On one hand, we have liberal media, high-tech tyrants, and Democrat Party, Antifa, BLM as a group, and try to take America down. Meanwhile, CCP fascist China is taking advantage of that. They play divide conquer, right? And divide our country, citizens against citizens. So we are forced to fight two fronts. Now, actually, let me tell you, the Biden foreign policy team meeting in Anchorage with CCP diplomats gave me hope, okay? The reason gave me hope is that Biden team walked in, didn't know how to deal with CCP. Their thuggery. Good example was they had a so-called engagement rule, 2-minute introduction remarks per each side. And US side did a 2 minutes, our Biden's Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, and follow the rule. and CCP break the rule, okay, break the 2-minute remarks rule, and did a 15, 16 minutes. And they did it on purpose, more like to dress down America and to get a nationalism back in China going, and anti-American nationalism going, okay? But our side got shocked and asking for additional time and keep the media there. They added 3-4 more minutes. But what turned the corner for us was Mr. Young, who is CCP National Committeeman and in charge of foreign policy during lunchtime, okay? And press asked him, what did you eat for lunch? He said, I ate instant noodle. Okay, he said, I ate instant noodle. Now, in China and America, only poor people eat instant noodle. What he tried to play was, see, I've been mistreated. They don't even host me for lunch. And I had to eat instant noodle. But that self is a lie. The reason that self is a lie is that the meeting is taking place in Anchorage, Alaska, and the hotel Captain Cook, 5-star hotel. I've been there. I even know the chef. You know, I lived in Anchorage for 10 years before I moved to Salem, Oregon. And they would even cook Chinese food for them if they ask for. So instant noodle is BS, right? And based on that, I tweeted. I told them, and the cheapskate and lie about having lunch, having instant noodle for lunch, try to say U.S. hosts mistreat them. But meanwhile, there is nothing instant noodle on the menu, right? And the only way you could have instant noodle is that you bring instant noodle from China. That's 50 cents item, okay? So now all the Chinese talk show, all the Chinese media, and start hitting them on the lie. So what you do is you take their overplay and you turn around and beat them to their own game. That's why I do on Twitter. And so to answer your question, when you do this kind of stuff, you have to realize, on one hand, you have to criticize Biden team, their approach to dealing with China threat. They went back to Obama days, and Biden is doing so-called strategic patience China policy. Okay, it's not going to work after they hit us with the CCP virus. But at the same time, you have to show them how you can do it better. By the way, when Trump in the White House for the last 4 years, I've been advising Trump White House on how to deal with CCP China.
And if I might just kind of tack onto that, a story that I heard about Trump is when he actually met with I think it was Xi Jinping. I might be way off. One thing that he did to show his Trumpness, I guess. Yeah, exactly right. Is in the middle of the conversation, he actually answered a phone call, got up and walked away, and was gone for several minutes. And while that seems like rude to us, it's a power move. It's like, you are not going to be in charge of this conversation. Right. And it actually shook them a lot. Yeah.
I could share a couple of interesting stories. Okay. Okay. And the one you're referring to, actually, first time Xi Jinping and his wife got invited to have dinner with President and his wife in Florida. And after meal, before dessert, he got up. He said, I have to take a call. Excuse me. What he did was he actually ordered airstrike on Syria position. Okay, this really is a big deal. No president in US ever done that to a state guest during the dinner. Then he sit down, he told Xi Jinping about it. Now, the minute I saw that and Xi Jinping didn't walk out, I know Xi Jinping is a phony. I told the White House, if you are true CCP nationalist, okay, and believing nationalism and Chinese dream kind of bullshit, right? You would have stood up and said, it's time for us to leave. Thank you, Mr. President, and goodbye, Mr. President, and just walk out of the meeting, walk out of dinner, right? He sat there and had his dessert afterwards, okay? So I told the White House, I said, you call him bluff, you test him, he is not made out of, steel, okay? And what Chinese term is paper tiger. Okay, now he is a real paper tiger ever since. Now, President tests him so to get ready for the trade war. That's why President had an upper hand on that one. The other story actually involved Taiwan. You guys would love to know this one. My friend, Steve Yates, actually was White House Deputy National Security under Bush 43 and assigned to Vice President Dick Cheney. But he, like me, is very, very strong Taiwan supporter and made an arrangement for President Tsai Ing-wen to call President-elect Trump, okay, in December. And President took the call. It was first time in our history that happened too. And that shook up China badly. And so the message was loud and clear. If President got elected for next 4 years, he will defend Taiwan. Okay. And that was the reason CCP and doing propaganda and to take down Trump as well last election cycle. And so now all this come together.
Oh man, I could spend forever. I know I keep saying that, but it's truly I have to hold myself back. Okay, last question that we have. I know that more are coming in. You can definitely send those to us on the side, and we can send them out. But the last question that we have is, what do you see as the biggest hope for our country?
Believing God and freedom. When I came to this country, I realized something. On one hand, people truly believing our own destiny, believing this republic, believing God, the kind of things you will never ever see in European countries and in China or Asia. And also, another thing is that when our backs against the wall, right, we fight. Okay, so what you see is last election was stolen, but we also realized many state parties, RNC, slept at a will. And a good example was that every presidential election cycle, RNC always assign a lawyer, a national lawyer, to be on call for each state. And because I was helping Trump campaign to deal with voter fraud, I had to watch every state house, legislative house and Senate hearing on election fraud. And a common denominator I realized was a poll observer on our side got kicked out. And they have no place to go. They don't even know who to call. And story like this, time after time, there is a pattern. You realize somebody slept on the switch. So I called Bill Courier. I said, what happened here? Did we get assigned? See, as a National Committeeman, I don't deal with this kind of stuff in detail. And so state party chairman deals with this kind of stuff. Did we get a assigned national lawyer to handle our situation? He said, no. He had to make arrangement with our own lawyer, Kevin Mannix, for that election night. So nobody was on call, okay? So then you start realize other things also happened. And you start asking questions, okay? Are we let our guard down, and because we think we would have this thing in our bag? And you can't trust those numbers, what they call, we made so many contact, phone calls, we knocking so many doors, we double our contacts since 2016, but the fact the other side cheat was never being calculated in our equation. And so we were fighting the last war, right? And based on 2016 numbers, yes, we doubled the number. We doubled this, we doubled that. But guess what? They cheated. They used COVID and do vote by mail and cheated. And we didn't take that into consideration. Now guess what we're going to do? We pick ourselves up, and find another day, and which now is coming together, now is here. And so I'm confident, okay, America is not going to go anywhere.
Well, thank you so much, Solomon. This has been awesome. We really appreciate you joining us for this conversation. It's been such an insightful conversation for us. I know for myself. I'd also like to thank the audience members for attending this YRO interview. We do these regularly, so we'd really love for you to join us at our website, www.yroorgan.org, where we will be making the announcements, as well as our social media pages. We have Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and probably anywhere else that we can find that won't ban us from it. We also have a bi-weekly podcast produced by our very own Lauren Christensen, who rounds up such incredible guests as well. If you'd like to get involved, please join YRO by contacting us at contact@yroorgan.org. We'd love to have you. Just a little plug for us. We have guests on here. We have our podcast and our social media platforms. And a way that we continue to do this is by donation. So please consider giving at yroorgan.org. Thank you so much. This has been great.